Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to take you on a little adventure. I want to take you down to the river and show you where I collect some of my driftwood that I use in my garden landscape. It's a really cool way to add a little zing to your container garden or even into your garden beds, and it doesn't cost you a thing. You can just go find really cool pieces of wood, driftwood, and incorporate it in where you see fit. I have used driftwood in my landscape garden over and over again. I love to use it. It adds interest, it adds dimension, it adds height, it adds texture, and it's just really fun to work with, and you can find some really interesting pieces. I will show you how I clean my driftwood and a little tip on how to use it, what to clean it with, and then and that's it. Are you ready? Let's go forage for some driftwood. So for today's foraging destination, I chose to go down to the Cooper River, which is about, maybe a block and a half, 2 blocks from my house, maybe a little bit longer. Sometimes I can find some really good pieces of driftwood here. Not as good as the pieces that I can find when I go to the beach or to the Delaware Bay, but this will have to do for today, as I am only looking for 3, maybe 4 pieces that are long that I can use for a trellis or a obelisk for my planting container in the backyard. Little disclaimer here, don't do as I do. Wear proper shoes along the river's edge, especially if you're not up to date with your tetanus shots, because there is a lot of debris that floats up and rusty fishing hooks and all kinds of things that could end up sticking into your foot if you're not careful. Now that I've gotten this driftwood home, I am going to clean it up with a mixture of, I use Myers, not necessary to use that. Most of the time the solution is just bleach and water, but I like to use Myers because I like to get a little grease cutting action in there just in case there's some grease or any kind of oily residue left on the pieces of wood. So for the Clorox, they usually recommend a solution ratio of 9 parts water and 1 part bleach. I kind of diluted mine a little bit because these are thin pieces of wood. Also in this process, it is recommended that you leave your wood sit and soak for up to 5 weeks. I think like they say 2 weeks to 5 weeks. Don't quote me on that. This is just my knowledge that I've had from years of doing it. Look it up to be certain for yourself, but that's just the rule of thumb. You want to let it sit longer, that way it can kill off any bacteria that might be on there or any bugs that could have gotten in there, especially if you're going to use driftwood for fish tanks, which is what a lot of people end up doing. But this is just going out into my garden, and these are small pieces and they're going to be used as a trellis obelisk, so I'm not going to worry too much about that. The only material that we will require for this project is some twine or some natural sisal material, which is what I have here. Just going to snip off a piece, and we're good to go. Now coming up, I want you to pay attention to this castle looking piece of driftwood to the right of my planter box, and we will be working in that planter box. I want to show you where I got that. This was a different foraging trip to the Delaware Bay with my husband Thomas. We went one day looking for driftwood and we found this piece. This is a beauty. It is like a bulkhead or something, and my husband saw it and picked it up and said, "We're taking this home." Now we're back to the current project at hand. The planter box. I have some cabbages that Frugal Me has kept since last fall, but they've went to seed, which I don't mind. They look like succulents, but I want to string them up. And I thought, oh, it'd be cool to use some of these pieces of driftwood. It would give it some interest, some texture, something to talk about when people come through the garden. So you watched me clean these pieces of driftwood here. I'm just going to set them up like a trellis or an obelisk sort of, and then use some of that sisal to tie them at the top, and that's pretty much it for this little project. But man, does it give such a wow factor when you come through the garden. What do you guys think? Is this inspiring you to do something creative and beautiful? If your answer is yes, then please take a moment and subscribe to my channel. I am always working on creating something new, something beautiful, and I really have so much fun putting these videos together for you guys. So leave me a comment, tell me what you think about this one. This was a very quick project, and like I said, it basically cost me nothing, perhaps pennies or dimes for that sea salt. And to add the icing on the cake, so to speak, I did find this really interesting piece down there as well, and it fit nicely right on the top. If you think you would like to work with driftwood in this way, take a few moments to grab a pen and a paper or your phone to talk to Siri. Here is the recipe. 1 part bleach, 9 parts water. Mix it up, put your wood in, scrub it a little bit if you must. Don't want to use an abrasive pad or anything because it could end up putting unnatural scratches in the wood. Let it soak for a couple of weeks to kill off germs and bugs. And then take it out. You can finish it if you wish with a matte varnish or oil, hemp seed oil some people use, and then you can put it right out in your garden landscape. As a parting gift, I'd like to share with you the knockout roses are blooming, a little impromptu bouquet of sorts, a little purple sage. Smells so good. And I trimmed Dusty Miller, so I'm going to throw a couple of these in there just for some contrast. And voila, a micro bouquet in a shabby repurposed jar. What can be better than that? Guys, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you at the next project.